Ley lines, standing stones, a remote English village, ancient folklore, paganism, and perhaps a hint of Groundhog Day feature in a scary children's TV show that even gave the adults goosebumps. This story, split into 7 episodes, follows a scientific researcher and his teenage son who head to a remote English village to study a circle of standing stones. Why are the stones there and what properties do they have are just 2 of the questions they hope to answer. But it's surprises all round as they start to scratch the surface of the stones, the village and its people. In this episode of the channel, I'm looking at Children of the Stones, and I can tell you, kids watching this mini-series back in 1977 would have needed some stones. Children of the Stones was filmed in Avebury, Wiltshire during the scorching summer of 1976. It was first broadcast the following year. The story opens with lead character Adam driving along a country road toward the fictional village of Milbury with his on-screen son Matthew. Spooky and atmospheric music performed by the Ambrosian Singers tells us this is no ordinary children's TV story. The music is more hammer horror than happy holidays. In the opening minutes we're given a clue of what's to come when Matthew jokingly tells his dad a distant hill is phantasmagorical.
There's the hill.
Pretty phantasmagorical.
Pretty what?
Pretty phantasmagorical. With an F, which means more fantastic than fantastic.
Rubbish. It's PH, as in phantasmagoria, a series of illusions or phantoms.
Moments later, Adam has to drop the anchors when a huge stone appears in the road.
Dad, stop!
And before you can blink, the polystyrene prop turns into a woman. She turns out to be Adam's creepy housekeeper, Mrs. Crabtree. Inside the cottage, Matthew quickly feels something is a bit off, particularly when Mrs. Crabtree faints at the sight of a painting of the stone circle that Matthew's holding, another clue of what's to come. Matthew heads off for a cycle ride, having been befriended by a local lad, and here something that's never really explained takes place. For a moment, it looks like a lorry is going to collide with Matthew's new friend on a country lane, but the lorry disappears in a blink of an eye, and the kids carry on to the local post shop. As the story required a post shop, the Avebury village store had a post box placed outside by the prop department. When filming finished, they found it full of letters and postcards, and someone from the crew put them in a real post box. As the lads enter the shop, the doorway becomes yellow, and I wonder if this is a colour correction issue with the film or another clue that the village is under some kind of special force. And possibly taking an idea from Patrick McGowan's The Prisoner, we discover the locals greet each other by saying, "Happy day."
Happy day, Mrs. Warner.
Happy day, Bob.
In The Prisoner, everyone says, "Be seeing you," as a parting phrase.
Be seeing you.
But maybe writers Jeremy Burnham and Trevor Ray were simply influenced by the American phrase, "Have a nice day."
Have a nice day.
Later, Matthew becomes friends with fellow school pupil Sandra, played by Catherine Levy, and is told new people to the village have to stick together.
We've got to stick together.
What could possibly be afoot? Sandra is the daughter of museum curator Margaret Smythe, played by Veronica Strong. In a children's classroom, we quickly find the teenagers are in 2 groups, very smart kids on one side and my group on the other. Meanwhile, in the museum, Adam is being brought up to speed by Margaret, a possible romantic interest. But of course, it is a children's TV show after all, so we just stick to skeletons, a man crushed by a 40-ton stone, and folklore. Outside, Margaret teases Adam to touch one of the stones. And here, our hero is almost thrown out of the frame by a bolt of electricity. Recovering back indoors, and Margaret sneaks a slug of scotch before giving Adam one.
Thank you. Have one yourself.
No.
Before he's even touched a drop, he starts having visions of the stones and his son, Matthew. Meanwhile, Matthew meets local poacher, Di. Now, Di clearly knows something we don't because he laughs when Matthew says that he plans to leave in a few months' time.
Thanks. There's so much to do before we leave.
Nobody leaves the circle.
Nonsense, you leave. You come and go as you please.
Where do I go? The avenue, the sanctuary, the barrow. Never get away from the stones. Never get beyond their sight, boy. Never out of their grasp.
So far we have power-charged stones, psychic forces, scary visions, pagan rituals, gifted children and ley lines. And it's by joining up the local ley lines that Matthew and Adam come across Highfield House, a large dwelling owned by the mysterious Mr. Hendrick, who's helped by his manservant, Link.
A house?
It belongs to Hendrick. Highfield House belongs to your landlord.
Really? I wonder if he knows.
About the ley lines? Oh, I should think so. He's pretty well informed about the local phenomena.
Having mentioned that Stonehenge aligns with the sun and the moon, Adam asks Matthew to check if the Milbury Stone Circle aligns with anything in space. And this is where it really gets interesting.
Not bad news, I hope.
No, it's from California. Mount Palomar Observatory. Well, I wondered what the stones of the circle were all pointing at up there. Just didn't seem to make sense.
But now it does.
According to this, it's aligned to a supernova which exploded centuries before Christ, about the start of our existence. There's nothing there now but a black hole.
Later, Adam and Margaret have their evening out cut short as the local pub is closed, and this was even before the breweries bought all the free houses and shut them down. Turns out, most of the locals are holding hands and chanting for their supper in the stone circle. It all seems very sinister. Matthew heads to the sound of the chanting, is grabbed by Di, and by accident or on purpose is knocked out cold and left on the doorstep of his home. Later, Di has a tumble of his own, and where his body should be are half a dozen stone fragments. These are briefly seen again during the climax of the story. And then we cut to the scariest thing of all, Morris dancers. And this leads our newcomers to realise that something or someone is changing the people in the village to become happy and compliant, almost zombie-like. It seems anyone Hendrick invites over to dinner has a mind-altering experience that appears to turn them into happy days citizens. And it seems Hendrick has to wait for the stars to align before he can perform his spell, which includes swivelling his stone chair around using his feet.
It is time!
Now, it's not long before Margaret and her daughter Sandra fall under his spell, leaving Adam and Matthew as the last two standing. And with this, they make plans to leave the village, and I would too. Their first crack at getting out ends in an apparent car crash. And they wake up in Hendrick's grand house. Now, as mentioned earlier, Hendrick can only cast his spell when the stones are aligned with the black hole. Timing is everything, isn't it always? Helping him are digital clocks in every room of his house that are linked to a master clock in a nearby church crypt, a place that's full of computers. It seems Adam and Matthew have got less than an hour for a second stab at escaping. Adam and Matthew come up with a great plan. They find a way to spin all the digital clocks forward so Hendrick's timing is out of whack when he comes to cast his spell.
Right. Let's hope Hendrick's not clock watching.
Hendrick does his party piece, assumes Adam and Matthew are now under his influence, and welcomes them to the happy day fold.
Arise, my children. I commune and identify with the forces of nature. Your sin is my sin. Your guilt is my guilt. You are free. You are happy?
So happy.
Happy. Happy day indeed.
They step outside, where Adam and Matthew go to join the singing circle and unintentionally break the spell the villagers have fallen under.
What's happened? They broke us.
Hendrick ages in a flash of light, and as bedlam breaks out, the locals turn to stone. Matthew and Adam run away, recreating the image seen in the old painting that had sent Mrs. Crabtree into a spin. In doing so, they run over some stones which quickly fade into the grass and seek shelter in a cave once used by Dye the Poacher. At dawn, the mist clears, and inside the cave, Dye reappears alive and well, and he's not happy to see Adam and Matthew.
What are you up to, boy?
Dye! You're alive! Whose is that?
That belonged to my father, that did.
For some reason, he has knives to sharpen, and I fail to see the relevance of this scene. If you have any idea, any clues, put them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your ideas. As our heroes drive away, feeling a sense of relief, a younger-looking Mr. Hendrick arrives, looking to buy Highfield House. He's met by Link, an estate agent who we saw earlier as Hendrick's servant. And the story, I assume, begins again. For a children's TV show, this is a deep, complex and bewildering tale. It was written by Jeremy Burnham and Trevor Ray. Jeremy sadly left us in 2020. Finding the series on DVD has been problematic, although I did see it listed on Amazon for $164 US. I saw another listing on eBay for $100. An audio version of Children of the Stones is available as a BBC podcast, and it's very good. Return to the Stones features Matthew Brake as an adult, returning to Milbury with his own son and another adventure. Finally, the haunting music used in the show was released a few years ago, and if you fancy getting the vinyl long player, there's a limited pressing. The tracks are so short they all fit onto one side of the disc, and the LP version comes with a super poster as well. Children of the Stones is a great story and well worth searching for on YouTube. My name is Steve Hart. You've been watching the channel. Please do like, share and subscribe, and let me know your memories of Children of the Stones. I'll be back soon with another review. Until then, have fun, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Cheers for now.